We're live.
We are live. We're going to be talking about the sugar diet. We're going to be talking about kind of working your way through some weak points, working your way through things that are difficult, things that are hard to get you to a better spot, and how we've landed on maybe the greatest diet of all time, which, you know, it is a bodybuilding style diet. Cole Robinson talking about the 90s bodybuilding style diet. Some people having questions of like, Mark, why do you keep just following Cole Robinson? Why are you mirroring him? You know, because Cole and I have, we're working on taking over the world together. So I figured it'd be easier to take over the world with a little shit like him that has so much fucking energy than to try to, I mean, imagine me trying to take over the world. I'm pretty calm, right? So I need like an evil henchman along the way to help me with this. But to be more transparent than that, you know, what's kind of happened over the last couple months is like you start to find a particular diet, you find a particular thing, you give it a shot for a little while, and you explore it, and you explore that thing with everything you got. It kind of turns out that you push it a little far with that particular thing, and then you might have to make some changes, and that's part of evolving, I think. And some people might, you know, have questions about like, why not just do this? Why not just do that? Why not just do a balanced diet? Well, a balanced diet is awesome. You know, to have balanced macros, to do 33% of each one, isocaloric diet, that also was a book that was written by Dan Duchaine that no one cared about, because Dan Duchaine wrote Body Opus and people cared about that, but they didn't care about the isocaloric diet. Because Dan Duchaine, just like everybody else, is smart enough to understand that there's more than one way to lose weight. There's more than one way to manage your weight. There's definitely so many ways to be healthy, right? And so, you know, when it comes, yeah, there you go, the isocaloric diet. And, you know, the isocaloric diet is a little bit similar to what Stan Efferding has, you know, about I think Stan's like around 30% or so with most of the macros. I don't know exactly, you know, I think Stan is smart enough to understand too that those macro splits are going to be slightly changed in accordance to what the person is doing. Stan, by the way, I talked to him just a couple days ago about his macro split when he was competing in bodybuilding. And we brought up pictures of Stan before, but like, guys, it was absurd. It was absolutely absurd how big and how shredded this guy got. Now, Stan was an IFBB pro. He turned to pro through Masters. So he wasn't top tier IBF pro, but I mean, like I just guess I don't even understand bodybuilding. Like if he's not top tier IBF pro, then like I just it's insane how big and jacked and crazy these guys are able to get. You look at some of these pictures here. We have video of Stan walking around at the Arnold in like 2018 or something like that. I forget the exact year, but just looking nasty, just looking like so jacked. It's just like, it's nuts. How big he's able to get his back. I guess, you know, bodybuilding, you have to, you know, not only build up your back, but you have to have huge legs and everything else. And so Stan, being like 100-pound soccer player when he was young, didn't end up with the biggest legs, even though he was able to squat 900 pounds, which is pretty absurd amount of weight too. You know, Stan really crushed it in powerlifting as well. But anyway, Stan told me that his macros were 500 grams of carbohydrates a day, 500 to 600 grams of carbohydrates a day. He did not do cardio, but he lifted twice a day. And I think he lifted twice a day, about 4 or 5 days a week. Him and his coach decided like he didn't need cardio. You got to keep in mind, Stan Efferding is an ectomorph naturally. And so maybe for Stan, maybe he didn't need cardio. Maybe everyone's a little different on that. I don't know. You know, I think Stan likes the message of, you know, being able to send a signal to your body that's powerful and send a signal to your body that's anabolic, rather than, you know, just kind of like doing cardio. And some people believe that it can sort of be a little on the catabolic side, but a lot of bodybuilders utilize cardio, and it's an interesting thing. And I used 90 minutes of cardio when I competed in my show, used it 6 days a week. And I don't know how well it worked in comparison to not doing cardio, since I've never done a bodybuilding cut like that without cardio. All I know is what I did, and it resulted in me being very shredded, and it resulted in me winning the show. So it worked. It worked really well. But yeah, Stan told me he was like 500 to 600 grams of carbohydrates every day. The fats were about 70, which is interesting. But you keep in mind, he was working out very intensely, and he was working out twice a day. His protein was around 300 grams. So those are some hefty macros to have. That doesn't even seem like a caloric deficit, right? Like 70 grams of fat. That's close to 700 calories, give or take. Obviously it's not 700 calories, but it's 600 something calories. And then he had, the 500, is what, 2000 calories, right? So the calories are stacking up, pretty good. And he was able to still get very shredded. But I think my point in bringing some of that up is that the fats are going to be low. This is what we've come down to. What we boiled this down to is a low fat diet, and 70 grams of fat from Stan, that might not be low fat for some other people, because they might not be as active as he was when he was competing. They're not training. I mean, the intensity, I remember training with Stan, when Stan would show me like bodybuilding style workouts, and they were very, very intense, short in duration, but very, very hard to get through. I mean, you're breathing like crazy getting through these workouts. I don't know if we have any clips of him working out with Flex Wheeler, but those workouts that he did with him, they're just brutal. Like him and the other guy that are training together, they're just absolutely just drenched in sweat every single workout. So the intensity is just through the roof. But Cole's bringing up some really good points about bodybuilding and bodybuilding training and bodybuilding in terms of the diet. And he's kind of saying like, I wonder if some people that are like big and fat, if they tried Ronnie Coleman's bulk, like how that would work for them. Yeah, you can see how big Stan's body is right there. Even in a jacket, you can tell he just like can barely move. But it is interesting. Like, what if someone that's fat did, a 90s bodybuilding style bulk, they would probably lose body fat because the fat calories are still really low. And this is something that I just find really interesting, because what is the ultimate diet? What's the greatest diet ever? Well, the greatest diet ever for most people that want to be lean would be a diet that allows them to burn body fat to potentially get leaner, because most people aren't happy with where they currently are. So you want a diet that's going to help you to burn body fat, but you also want a diet that's delivering good energy to you. Not only good energy, but great energy, and short and long energy. You don't just want the, longer energy coming from like some fat. You want the shorter, like little energy bursts that you might get from some simple sugars. And then so you end up with messing around, and you end up landing on something like the sugar diet, and you try low protein for a little while, and low protein doesn't really register for very, like in short term, you don't really notice much. But if you start doing low protein week in, week out, for me, my protein was around 700 for the week. And that's not necessarily, I don't even consider that to be low protein. Not even now, I don't consider that to be low protein, even though I made some adjustments, and I'll share those with you guys in a moment. By the way, if you have questions, you can fire some questions. So because we'll open up for a Q&A. And if you want to do the super chat, that's even more beneficial, because usually you guys are just fucking off in the comments section saying stupid stuff all the time. So anyway, I guess keep the stupid stuff coming, because it's better than nothing. But it's great when you guys have real questions, or it's great when you guys are active in the sugar diet, or trying the sugar diet, or whatever diet you're doing, and letting me know, your pitfalls with what you've done, or the successes that you had, because then I can help relay that out to other people as well. But yeah, the sugar fasting, it's helped me so much. It's helped me with recalibrating my cravings. Like I'm on a mission right now. Like I'm only going to continue to get leaner from here. Just working out earlier today, and just, looking at my body, doing certain types of movements and trying to get in certain positions and stuff. I was like, holy shit, man. Like I just continue to just, it's small changes. It's these small changes, but the changes are happening almost every single week where I'm noticing a good change. Now, my changes stalled a little bit when I was doing the sugar diet, because you guys have to keep in mind, before I ever talked about the sugar diet, I was already doing it for a while. And that's the same thing with anything else I've ever done. I always try to do something for a while before I start talking about it. And I've been messing with the sugar diet for about 6 months. But what I originally started with was consuming some protein throughout the day, minor or small amounts, just because I don't love to like eat a lot of food during the day. And I'd have, I don't know, 75 to 100 grams of protein, throughout the daytime. And then I would, get another 100 or 150 later on in the evening, something like that. And I was also mixing my carbs because I really didn't know what I was doing with sugar fasting in the beginning. And I had cereal a little bit here and there. I had some rice here and there. I was also on vacation. I was in San Diego when I started it. And so the diet was a little loose. It was a little bit loose, but I was getting lean off it. I was like, this is really interesting. And I was eating shrimp and some scallops and some lean sources of protein, 93.7 lean ground beef, which, by the way, is not that lean. Okay. I saw this video with Susan Powder that was posted on Cole Robinson's channel where she's shopping. And it was really eye-opening because she said, hey, guess how much fat is in the, guess what percentage of fat the 2% milk is, or the 2% cottage cheese. And she actually did the math on it. She shows you. She's like, the 2% milk and the 2% this, 2% that is actually made up of 30% fat. And you're like, damn. Now, there's nothing wrong with fat, and there's nothing wrong with something having 30% fat, but that ain't going to cut it for you trying to get shredded. There are a lot of ways to get shredded. So don't think that what I'm about to say is 100% the gospel and that there's no other way to get shredded, because there are other ways. But doing so with only a caloric deficit, in my opinion, is just garbage. It's not a great way to go. And guys, keep in mind, I came from being 330 pounds. Like, I know about weight loss. I know about getting in shape. I know about getting on stage. I've done a bodybuilding show before. I've been around a lot of bodybuilders. You see some of these pictures that Ryan's pulling up, or some of these videos where I'm just, I'm so fat in these videos that it's unbelievable that I posted a video just so people didn't think. I mean, I know anything can be faked these days, but that's real. That's how big and fat I was. Like wearing, I don't know, like size 44 shorts that like don't fit right because they probably need to be even a little bit larger. Wearing 4X shirts, 4 and 5X shirts. I remember 3X just didn't cut it. It was like skin tight. Started even getting like kind of tight around my stomach. And I was like, whoa, this is getting to be gross. So, I mean, the transformation I had, the transformation that I did is the greatest to ever be done in the history of the fitness industry. If there's anybody else that's done it this way, that's done it to this capacity, then congratulations to them too, because that's incredible. But I can't think of really anybody, who's done anything like this, your favorite influencer, your favorite person, your favorite this, your favorite that. That doesn't mean that I'm a material expert necessarily on diet or nutrition. But it means that I do know how to get shit done. I do know how to lose body fat. I do have a good understanding of it. And I also utilized many methods, so you start thinking about, there's not that many people that have tried. There's a lot of people that have tried different methods, but I've tried a lot of different methods, and I've had success with a lot of different methods. And I'm telling you guys that losing fat via running off of a lot of carbohydrate is, in my opinion, the absolute best way to lose fat, because you have a nice amount of energy available all the time. And also when you start to bring those proteins back up, which is a kind of a mistake, a little bit of not even a mistake of the sugar diet. It's just part of what the sugar diet is and was, like the honey diet specifically, or sugar fasting specifically. But once you get away from sugar, like I've been trying to get away from this thing from the beginning. And that's why I've been saying, like, I don't see eye to eye with Cole on everything. But if you remember, one of the videos I made right out of the jump, and let's not even forget the single digit body fat series, which was talking about prioritizing protein and protein leveraging a ton, right? So I'm not getting brainwashed by what Cole is saying. I like what Cole is saying, and I like the direction he's going in. And I am going to follow suit on some of the things that he's saying, and our ideas are going to overlap. But when he started saying like the sugar diet and sugar fasting are the same thing, and I just thought that was dumb. I thought that was a big mistake. And the reason why I thought it was a big mistake is because sugar fasting is only running off of some sugars. And maybe somebody does that for a particular amount of time. You're running off of fruit juice, maple syrup, honey, sugar, and candy. Okay. That's that intervention. And that's its own thing. And you do that in the absence of fat. Yes, to trigger FGF21, and yes, to trigger GDF15, and yes, to trigger all these things that may be stressors, but also potentially have the ability to transform our bodies in some way. So those things are worth giving a shot to. And I know Jay Campbell has really been diving in hard on this diet and has had great results. He's been posting some pictures. There's a bunch of other people who have gone hard on this diet plan. My friend Jeff Powers is now, right around the 200 range. My brother, who we call the big fat pig on this podcast, was a big fat pig. He was like 225. He might even got to 230. Guess what he weighs now, ladies and gentlemen? My brother's at 199 pounds. Fucking awesome, right? Awesome. Awesome sauce. It's great seeing all these people dropping some LBs. It's absolutely fantastic. But my brother and I have talked recently on the phone. He said, "What are you doing now?" And I just dropped a video the other day talking about what am I doing now? And what I'm doing now is a slightly different version of sugar fasting where there's more protein involved. I now have switched gears to doing more of the sugar diet, where the sugar diet is allowing you, just like the honey diet, just like Anabology said on this podcast, he mentions he likes having protein in the evening. He likes breaking that fast with some protein, and then he starts over the next day. Now, is that still the most optimal way to get the most jacked and everything else? I would still say no. And that is why in the Smelly protocol, either the 1.5 or the 2.5, now that I look back at those, I still think those are great interventions. I still think it's a great thing to do. I mean, these are only a couple weeks old, right? A lot of people have had tremendous success running off of them, but I think that it gives your body an opportunity to experience what it's like to not have a lot of protein. It recalibrates your taste buds. Like, there's things that happen in a diet that are more important than just losing weight. Losing weight is critical. Having the scale go down is critical for almost all of us. It's important for a lot of people, for health, for all kinds of stuff. It's really important that you lose weight. But it's not the only thing that we get from our diet. It's not the only thing that we get. Like, we can't lose sight that our nutrition needs to be nutritious. That's an important thing, right? So sometimes when we go too far one way, we have to kind of come back, because we have to almost always recognize, don't want to use absolutes too often, but we have to almost always realize that the answer kind of comes back to the middle almost every single time, right? But if you look at the way the Smelly protocol is written out, if you look at the weekend gives you an opportunity to get kind of more jacked. And I was being a little bit careful with the weekend, because I don't want people like going haywire and like just eating a bunch of shit. But that Saturday and Sunday was set up because a lot of people don't work on those days, and you have less responsibilities, maybe some family responsibilities, but there's no reason why you can't get after it at 7 a.m. in the morning and have a great workout, or wake up a little bit later and from 8 to 10. No one's doing shit at your house from 8 to 10. So let's go. Get going. If you go to church on Sunday, then train later or whatever, right? But you have an opportunity to get after it. And that day is set up to like get jacked. That those days are set up like that to get jacked. And so even though I'm saying you still might sugar fast through the morning time before the workout, you know, once the workout is over, that's when you have your starches and whatever carbs you want, really, and whatever proteins that you want, as long as the proteins are really lean. So the diet protocol that I fell on now is a bodybuilding style diet where we can actually throw out protocols and rules. You could still use this protocol. Like this still might be something good for you to utilize here and there, breaking up the sugar fast a little bit here and there, or even doing the other version of this where I mentioned you're just going every other day, you know, or you're doing like 36-hour sugar fasts and stuff. But I would also say I don't really think it's that necessary. The only reason why it might be necessary is for the one reason I mentioned about it changing your cravings, because a lot of people reported that when they did this diet, when they did sugar fasting, and when they blended it with sugar diet, and they did some of the Smelly protocols and some of the other protocols that are out there, so many people came to me and said, man, I'm just craving a steak. I am just absolutely like craving, you know, some meat, even some lean meat, some turkey, some chicken, some egg whites, and some starch. That's rare. That is really rare. What is that? Well, that's the protein deprivation. And so now that we got to that point, now let's start to add those proteins back in. Now, how many grams of protein are you going to have a day? Well, I think you can just judge some of that by yourself. Let's just talk about like what's the lower end of protein for protein muscle synthesis and what's the higher end. Well, you know, most things say that like about 0.5 times your body weight is a decent place to start. Some people would argue and say, hey, it should be a little higher than that. 0.5, 0.7. I mean, it doesn't matter that much. You can experiment and mess with it for yourself. Some people will say, hey, how about this? How about 0.5 times your body weight, which would be, you know, for me, it'd be like 100 grams, 115 grams, or whatever the heck it'd be, 110 grams of protein from animal, like from an animal, basically, right? And then I can also say, all right, well, it's, you know, a good idea to get a little bit of whey protein, a little bit of collagen and so forth, and get some other proteins in the mix too. And I'll get that from my steak shake, right? Or you can even say there's going to be protein coming in from fruits and vegetables and starches, because there is some in there. So when you have a day where you have, you know, quote unquote, only 100 grams of protein, which is actually still a decent amount, and you weigh 200 pounds, but you had, you know, 4 or 5 handfuls of blueberries, you had some raspberries, you ate a banana, afternoon, you had some tuna and some rice and stuff like that, right? It starts to add up. The protein starts to add up, but not just the protein from the animal product, but the protein from the starches and the protein from the vegetables and the proteins from the fruit. There is protein in those things. Usually it's only around, I think, like 5% or 4 to 6% is what we looked up on the show before. And that's not a lot, but it's something, right? And I would advocate, I do think that I do think it's a good idea to get like the highest quality proteins that you can. What are the highest quality proteins? Well, we hear time and time again, the most bioavailable, they claim that whey protein is numero uno. They had this chart years ago where they gave these ratings out. And I think these ratings started out utilizing this in feedlots and utilizing this with pigs and stuff like that. But number one was, and I think it had to do with amino acid profile, but number one was whey protein. But before whey protein was invented and created and sold as a big thing, I was around, by the way, when whey protein first hit the market as a protein powder supplement, right? Number one was egg before whey protein ever came out. And then whey protein came out, and whey protein was it. And Ryan pulled up the list there. What does that say? 100 to 115? Is that what it says?
For the whey protein, it says 100 to 159.
Yeah, and it's going to depend on, it even depends on the type of whey protein that it is. And the type of whey protein that I utilize this is the whey product that I sell from Within You brand. is a hydrolyzed whey protein, which is probably even off the charts off of this because it's not even listed on here. But hydrolyzed whey protein has a really awesome amino acid profile. But the steak shake has an amino acid profile that cannot be challenged by any other product on the market because it has a bunch of different proteins in it. It has egg, it has whey, and you see beef is on the list as well. In addition to that, it also has collagen. So you're getting protein from a bunch of different sources when you have something like the steak shake. The total carnivore shake is a little less in terms of its amino acid profile because it's beef isolate, right? It's beef isolate and it is collagen. And those are the two types of protein that are in there. And then the tallow, and then the total carnivore has beef tallow as its form of fat, and the steak shake, the form of fat is MCT oil powder from Bubs Nutrition. And Bubs is also our collagen source. And so I wanted to make sure that these products had the best quality ingredients that we could possibly make. I also wanted to rid them of artificial, and I wanted to rid them of even natural flavors and all kinds of stuff. And that's why, the only way you're going to get rid of some of those natural flavors and some of these types of things is to go with our unflavored powders. So for those of you that are really into the ingredients, and even in unflavored, we couldn't get away with everything. We tried. We tried to make a product that had like nothing in it, that literally was just the things in the highest form. I know some people are just thinking, just eat food. And I agree. Yes. Do that. Eat your food. It's really important. But what's cool too, also about the total carnivore, and I've done this with a bunch of different foods and a bunch of different things before, I actually could put the total carnivore on stuff. And I don't do so in large amounts, but I'll put it on my food to get a little extra nutrition from it, because you're also getting liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas, because the steak shake and the total carnivore both have that in there. Anyway, that's my pitch on that stuff. Sorry for being a grifter, as you guys like to call me, which is a really cool thing. I was actually been thinking of, maybe instead of Mark Smelly Bell, maybe it's like Mark Grifter Bell, or I was thinking of like maybe starting a YouTube series, like, deep grifting or something like that. I don't know. Like, you guys can help me with the name, but I can see if I can grift a little harder. But, if grifting is somebody that sells stuff, then, or somebody that's like hawking products or whatever it might be, then that would be me for sure, because I've been selling products from the very beginning. Hopefully you guys have realized that that's nothing that's changed. I have been talking about products since the beginning. I'm a product-based person. I think that products help. I think having a Ninja blender, I think having these modern conveniences, I think can really be helpful. I think utilizing certified Piedmontese beef can be really helpful. I just think what I try to do is I try to present you guys with things that I think would be useful to you. I'm talking about rope flow. It's like, I might as well tell you where to go buy the rope. A lot of videos that I do, I'll, drop salt into something. Someone's like, hey, where'd you get salt? Right. So I'm thinking of like, well, I should maybe mention the brand, right? If I'm, doing rope flow, then I should mention that, hey, I come from Nseema's website, and Nseema's website is called Stronger Human. So go over there and buy some shit off from him. Also, I like to be supportive of friends and stuff like that. So I like to throw those things your way. Anyway, back to the diet. This is exciting. And I'm not trying to take credit for inventing anything. I'm not trying to say that Cole Robinson invented anything with this particular diet. Make sure you follow him, Snake Diet on YouTube, Snake Diet Wizard, I believe, on Instagram. But this is exciting, man. We got a path forward. I left Cole a message the other day and said, I have a path forward. I know how to get lean. I was talking with Mike O'Tren recently, and Mr. O'Tren said that he's doing a bunch of cardio. He's in the sauna, right? He's doing all these things, and he's peeled right now. He's shredded. He's got the death face look. The cheeks are sucked in. He's looking awesome. But he's doing like, quite a bit of cardio and stuff like that. So what I said to Cole was, it's awesome that I have a really good path forward, on getting leaner than I've ever been before in my life, or at least getting close to that, getting close to the way I looked on stage when I competed in a bodybuilding show about 6 years ago now. I have a path forward to be able to figure this out without doing the exact same thing I did for the bodybuilding show. Why wouldn't I just follow what I did for the bodybuilding show? Well, because it sucked. It was good. It was effective. What Hani Rambod set up for me was awesome. And Hani is smart, and he didn't set up anything for me that was too hard because he knew that I would probably fail since I don't have a lot of experience with bodybuilding. So he didn't set me up on 1,600 calories or anything like that. I mean, I think I was eating like 2,300 calories, 2,500 calories on most days. It was a meal plan is what he gave me. And I had chicken, fish, eggs, chicken, fish, beef. Eggs, chicken, fish, beef every day. As the show got closer, we pulled out the steak. We got rid of the steak because he wanted everything to be lean. So then it was like 2 fish or two chicken, or something like that. And we stuck with that for a while. But guess what? It was a low-fat diet. It was a low-fat diet. Now, if I knew some of the things that I know now, you know what I would have done? What I would have done differently? I would have just ate less fat. I would have just eaten less fat. And I'd be less fat. If I just eaten less fat and didn't do the cardio. Now, hold on for a second, because this is where shit gets interesting. In a conversation with Stan Efferding, I don't even know if there's much science behind this, Stan and I agreed that there is an advantage, and I think Michael Hearn would agree as well. There is an advantage to going on the calories outside, leaning towards calories going out to get yourself super shredded. Might be advantageous, might be more advantageous than just dropping calories. So that's an interesting little twist right there, is you might be able to. I'm not sure. We're going to find out because I have no cardio going on right now. I am doing, like, every once in a while, I'll do a Peloton bike workout. I am walking. My walking has been up a little bit more recently. So there'll probably be some, changes with leanness just from that. I'll do a Peloton bike workout here and there. And I have been thinking about, maybe working out twice a day. I've been just really thinking about these things because I'm just excited and I have the energy to do it. Like, I feel like a lot of times before we podcast, I'll work out, but I'll work out for like 15 minutes. Every once in a while, that's my only workout I get. But more often than not, I get another workout. And more recently, I haven't had 15-minute workouts. More recently, I've had full workouts, if not more than one sometimes in a day. But yeah, I've been kind of considering this. But back to what I was saying earlier, a lot of bodybuilding coaches say, "Oh, just have a scoop of peanut butter. Throw a little peanut butter on your rice cake." I don't want to discredit these bodybuilding coaches. These bodybuilding coaches have been doing this stuff for years. What do I know about getting anybody on stage? I know nothing about it. Never done it before. I've been on stage myself, but I had a coach that was coaching me. I've never coached anybody to step on a bodybuilding stage. However, I do think some of these people are making these things a little bit more complicated than they need to be. Could you use less peanut butter and have less cardio to do? I'd say yes. I would say, just don't eat fucking don't buy peanut butter. Peanut butter is a scam. Peanut butter is bullshit. I don't think there's any reason. I understand it's nice to have a treat or a snack. So if somebody's having it for that reason, that changes everything. If a coach thinks that that's a good idea, to keep a particular momentum with an athlete, all right, well, now we're talking about something different. But is that helping you like metabolically? Is that helping you get more ripped to eat some peanut butter? I think it's dumb. I don't think it makes any sense. An interesting thing, when it comes to the big boys that stepped on the bodybuilding stage, a Jay Cutler, a Ronnie Coleman, like none of us will ever be them. None of us will ever be in the same category as them. None of us will ever eat the way that they ate. Like those guys ate so much food. They force fed themselves and everything. But even with all that, if you were to force feed yourself carbohydrates and very, very lean sources of protein, almost just throughout the day, not even almost throughout the day, like literally throughout the entire day, you just ate as much as you wanted / needed. Okay. You weren't on some sort of mission to like prove somebody wrong that you can get fat off of this by, really overindulging. But if you were just kind of getting after it and just going by your hunger signals, and you're keeping the fats really low, maybe the fats like under 20 for the day, I'd be really surprised if you did that for like a month and you didn't notice some like drastic changes in your body composition, especially if you're lifting, and quite a bit of fat loss. Like I would be surprised if you didn't lose like 8 pounds of fat, just like hammering fucking rice and egg whites, rice and fish. That's what I ate before I came here. I ate some rice and some fish, squirted some yellow mustard on it and ate it. And it was good enough. Like I happen to like fish, so I'm fine with that. I happen to love rice. Rice makes eating anything just way easier. So these combinations of food and stuff like that, I think you're also really opening up the playbook on the kinds of foods that you can eat. I mean, now you can go to every aisle listen to this, man. Like, what a great reason to do a diet. Everything that's in the motherfucking grocery store is now available to you. Every single aisle. You can go to any aisle in the grocery store. And in every aisle, you will find something that is absent of fat in every aisle. So you walk down one aisle and you're like, oh man, all this aisle has is like juice and all this other stuff, right? There's these beverages and these drinks that just have tons of sugar. Well, they're fair game. If they don't have any fat, you could have them. Maybe there's no reason for you to like just, blast a crazy amount of sugar, right? We've talked about this before, even on the sugar diet. There's probably not a lot of great reasons for you to have 1,000 grams of carbohydrates a day. I've done that for a couple days in a row just to kind of see what it would do. And it wasn't valuable. It wasn't anything that I needed, but it taught me that, hey, you should be around probably 600-700 grams of carbohydrates. And that's what I started moving to that. And now I'm somewhere between 500 and 700. It feels good. It feels really great. So sometimes you got to get yourself into these kind of weak positions, these positions where you might get compromised. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm starting to get a little compromised, but let me work. If I work my way out of this compromised position, now how do I feel now? So think about, Louis Simmons' stamp on the powerlifting community, Louis Simmons' stamp on strength and conditioning in general. When he basically just said, work your weaknesses to death and you'll be strong. If your lower back is a weak link in the mix, and you're trying to be a strongman athlete, you're trying to be a power lifter, you're trying to be a collegiate level wrestler, if you don't have a strong back, you're done. Like if you don't have a strong back, you're basically not strong. Like your back has to be strong. So if your back or certain positions with your back are not great, like where you do a stiff leg deadlift and you find out, you can only handle 225 on stiff leg deadlifts, but you want to have a 700 plus pound deadlift. Well, shit, a 225 pound RDL and stuff like that is really not going to cut it. Even if you're doing them strict and for hypertrophy, it's like, okay, I understand you're, maybe have a different desired result, but if you're trying to get stronger, you're going to have to bring that, you're going to have to work on that, because 225 is just not enough. It's not enough weight for you to be able to start to handle those heavier weights. You can do the same thing with nutrition. you can kind of paint yourself into a little bit of a corner. And you paint yourself into this little bit of a corner with fasting, intermittent fasting, dry fasting, zero carb, right? Like try zero carbs for a few days. You try zero carbs for a few days and you're like, oh, and then when you do zero carb, what happens when you carb back up? You get super compensation. Like your body has like this almost overreaction mechanism in it where all of a sudden because you got like depleted, now you store even more glycogen. Like there's a lot of weird things like that within the body, but how do we know how far to go unless we push pretty far? Let's say that you know that you're weak with something like a lunge. Well, you get into a lunge position, you find out the weakest spot, you work your way through that. Let's say that you find out that you have some weakness when you do a full range of motion squat. You start doing some full range of motion squats for 6 weeks, and all you're able to use is 135, and then maybe 155, and maybe you end with being able to handle 185, but it's really low. You're squatting down to a box that's like 12 inches, or you are, or you're doing just a regular full range of motion squat, and your ass is like all the way to the ground. You work on those for a couple of weeks, and what happens? A lot of times there's an adaptation that happens. Not only are you better at at that full range of motion movement, you increased your strength over the course of a few weeks, but now you're stronger at a regular, just slightly below parallel squat. These are the same things that can kind of happen with a diet. It's like you do a dry fast for 48 hours. Well, once you do a dry fast for 48 hours, everything else is pretty easy. You fast for 5 days, or you fast for 1 day or 2 days. I heard Joe Rogan recently say that he's never really done even a 24-hour fast. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there might not be any reason to do a 24-hour fast in modern times. However, I know Joe Rogan and a lot of people like the mental side of things. Kind of cool to do stuff like that, just to kind of see sort of what happens. And sometimes you learn, you're like, oh, that was stupid. Like that's not for me. I don't even really like that. But at least you did it. At least you tried it. You were open-minded enough to try it. And Zach Talander more recently made a video, and he was talking about me being a try it guy. And then he talked about the problems of being a quote unquote try it guy. But hey, man, you know what? I'd rather be on this side than be on any other side. I can't imagine things being any other way than to be somebody that has a white belt mentality, rather than somebody that thinks Olympic lifting is going to solve a bunch of deficiencies that somebody has in like their athleticism or something. I do think Olympic lifting can be great, and there's a lot of great coaches out there. And I know that Zach is proficient with Olympic lifting. And I don't disagree with some of the stuff that he shares about Olympic lifting. I think somebody possessing the ability to do a snatch, usually somebody that can even possess the ability to do a snatch, if you had a room full of like 50 people and that there's one person that can do it, they'd probably be able to display athleticism in other areas. But it's because Olympic lifting is testing so many things at one time. It's testing kind of, so your stretch reflex, it's testing some of your coordination, some of your timing, as well as just really challenging you through some of these ranges of motion that I just talked about. So having an ability to go through something harder to make everything else easier, I think is actually a really important premise. But, for me, I'll always be a try it guy. I love to try stuff. I love to just give things a shot. I mean, even when we had the guy on the podcast talking about the croissant diet, I was trying to look into buying some croissants like he was talking about, but I really couldn't find a line on like some decent croissants was the main problem, as fat as that may sound, because I didn't want to buy stuff with a bunch of seed oils and a bunch of crap in it. But the stearic acid model, it's a real thing. Stearic acid, and MCT oil and stuff, they get processed way differently than these other fats that we consume. Stearic acid, by the way, it's in butter. Stearic acid is also in chocolate. Stearic acid is also in the keto brick. It always comes back. How come every time it comes back to the keto brick? Why is the keto brick always victorious? But yeah, the keto brick, You know, I know the keto brick has 1,000 calories and 100 grams of fat. So where does it fit into my diet now? It doesn't fit in that well. But hey, look, you know, every other day or something like that, could I have a little bit of that? I think I probably should. A little stearic acid go a long way. Probably just make me feel good. It would probably help with all the steroids that I'm on, because steroids need cholesterol and steroids need some fats to, I guess, better assimilate. I don't know. Superbrain talked about it, I think, on the show when we had him on. It's supposed to help with some of the oral steroids a little bit more as well. And also, too, for those of you that just love blasting tons of illegal steroids like myself, you can also get, what was that compound? It was like a glycerol. It's like a glycerol monohydrate or something like along those lines. Maybe the exact name will come to me. But glycerol, not glycerin. Yeah, glycerol monostearate or something like that. Look that shit up, and you should be able to find that. But that's basically a fat of some kind, is my understanding, and it can help. It can help amplify whatever steroid usage you're utilizing. Does it say?
Glycerol monostearate is a versatile compound primarily used as an emulsifier, thickening agent, and stabilizer in various industries. It's a food additive, but also finds applications in cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and even plastics. It is known for its ability to prevent separation products containing both fats and water, enhancing texture and extending shelf life.
And that statement that you said about, like, you know, holding fats and waters together is probably what makes it valuable for us meatheads. And I could be wrong. It could be mainly only with the orals, but anyway, it's supposed to be beneficial. I figured I'd let you guys know that. But anyway, I mean, I was mentioning earlier that, you know, the entire grocery store now is open to you. Like, that's really cool. Like, for those of us that did keto, it's difficult, right? You got bacon, you got sausage, you got butter, you got eggs. You got a lot of good options. You got salmon and you know, all kinds of different steak options, all kinds of different beef and pork. You got a lot of great options when it comes to keto. Heavy cream. Yeah, it's just like, man, these are really good foods. But for myself, keto worked pretty good. Like, I was able to lose, no, it didn't work pretty good. It worked great. I was able to lose a lot of weight with a ketogenic diet. And that's why I wrote The War on Carbs, because I was so fired up. I think I lost 50, 60 pounds from that. The carnivore diet came around a little bit later, and I don't really recall like losing a lot of weight with the carnivore diet. It just didn't work great for me in that way, probably because of where I was, probably because I already lost a bunch of weight, and probably because I was already so low carb for so long that it didn't have any extra real benefit to me. And maybe, who knows, maybe if I tried carnivore now and did like a week of carnivore, especially, you know, primarily on the leaner meats, yeah, for like a week or 2 weeks, I'd probably get like even more shredded, because now we're talking about like a protein sparing modified fast, which is another style of diet that can be really beneficial. But yeah, now the whole grocery store is open to you. You can have, you know, rice and rice cakes, potatoes, even hash browns. There's simply potatoes, hash browns. They don't have any fat in them. Now, you might need to put a little bit of fat in the pan to get those bastards crispy. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to make that tomorrow. Actually, I made them in a waffle maker one time with some egg whites, and that was oh my God, I got to make that again. That was so good. Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, I mean, the grocery store, everything in the grocery store is open to you. Now, it does get challenging though. Trying to eat, like, what is this diet? Like, why don't I just fucking get to it and just tell you what it is? It is a zero fat diet. Zero fat. It's a zero fat proposition more so than anything else, because you cannot, if you eat anything, there's always going to be some fat that sneaks in there somewhere. I believe that fruits and vegetables, and I believe that everything has some fat. I could be a little bit wrong on that, but I think everything has some fat in it. I can't think of a meat that doesn't have fat in it. all meat has fat in it. Some meats are leaner than others, but all meat has fat in it, whether it's a scallop or shrimp, or even if it's a certified Piedmontese beef, if it's chicken, if it's turkey. Turkey's 99% lean. You can get 99% lean ground turkey, but it's not 100%, right? Like there's going to be fat in just about every single thing. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep those fats as low as you possibly can. For me, for today, I had a smoothie. I had various fruit like pineapple and some blueberries, some cantaloupe, some honeydew. I had some honey. I had rice. I had tuna. So, already today I had, a decent amount of carbohydrate, but not that much in terms of protein yet today. But I tried to keep the fat as low as possible. I tried to keep the fat at 0, but it's not 0. It's something, right? But anyway, detectable amounts of fat, you're still trying to have those to be as low as you can get them. And how low can you get them? And this brings us back to the protein for a second here, because can you keep your fat at like 5 grams, but have 300 grams of protein? Not really, because if you had, let's say if you had 2 pounds of chicken breast, like Ryan, maybe you can look it up, but 2 pounds of chicken breast has how much protein and how much fat? Like it's probably 2 pounds is probably at least 8 to 10 grams of fat of chicken breast. And it probably just not, it's probably like, might be 200 grams of protein.
So it looks like 2 pounds is 1,089 calories. Let's see. What does that say?
2 pounds of chicken breast is pretty like hefty because of how lean and how dry, and everything else it is.
So total fat would be 6 grams, and protein would be 104, and carbs would be 0.
Right. So you only had 104 grams of protein, but you got 6 grams of fat. So you'd be at 12. If you were trying to eat double that or something like that, yeah, you would be at 12. You get my point, right? And I'm not saying that chicken breast is the only game out there, but it's one of the only, it's one of the only really lean ones that everyone knows about, right? The scallops and stuff like that, but it's like, I don't know, who's going to eat 3 pounds of scallops? Like that could get kind of disgusting after a while. Anyway, you're trying to keep the fats as low as possible. And this does, because you're trying to keep those fats so low. I'm not saying keep the fats low I'm not saying keep the fats so low that it's to the detriment of your protein intake. I am not saying that. Like, do not do that. Do not have, these little pitiful amounts of protein every day just because you're worried about having 1 gram or 2 or 3 of fat. I don't think that's a good idea. However, it makes it more convenient if you're only on the hook for 100 or 150 grams of protein to keep your fats lower. And then therefore, your meat choices could change a little bit here and there. Like you don't have to be so strict. Kind of see what I'm getting at here. So like, it'd be great to keep the fats really low, do your best you can, like on most days. And then every once in a while you have like a New York strip, or you have tri-tip, or you have like a meat that has like just a little bit, sorry, I got something going on my eye here. But you just have a fat that has a little bit more, you have a meat that has a little bit more fat in it. And because you're not like trying to skyrocket the protein, you don't have to worry about it as much. Or you can maybe eat like a little bit, you can have some chicken breast and chicken thigh, right? Follow me here for a minute. Let's say you have, I don't know, 1 pound of both, hypothetically. And maybe your fat is like, I don't know, 15 at that point because of what you ate. Or maybe it gets, I don't know, close to 20. But if it stays like under 20 for most days, like that's still really good. And then maybe later on in the day, you just have a protein shake, because protein shakes can be very, very, very lean. or you have, some tuna or whatever it is. By the way, try some different fish. Try some canned chicken, some canned fish. Try it with some rice. Just try it. Like, if you hate fish, then maybe not. Okay. But if you're like, yeah, I'm kind of whatever on fish, because I'm always hearing people are always talking about meal prep. People need to know how to eat without meal prep. One way to eat on this diet without meal prep is just to buy oh damn, I forgot the name of the yogurt, but buy some fucking yogurt, buy some non-fat yogurt. 000 is the one I was thinking of.
Oikos?
Yeah, Oikos 000, like is a great brand, very, very low fat. Now, for those of you that are really, have health concerns, keep in mind these things have a lot of agents in them and a lot of bullshit in them to try to give them like a fat mouth, a mouth feel, and there's a lot of crap in there. Okay. So I'm not saying that this is like the healthiest product ever, but it's a nice modern day convenience towards helping you to jack up your protein. So get the low fat, non-fat cottage cheese, get the non-fat. I usually get 2% cottage cheese and just use less of it because I don't know. I don't always find non-fat cottage cheese. I guess if I did find it, I would use it, but I never see it. But yeah, these other things, they don't have any fat in them. Read the food labels, be meticulous with it. Even with something like tomato sauce, like, dude, how awesome is this? You can hammer pasta. You could hammer the fuck out of pasta and noodles. What a sick diet. You could get pasta and or noodles, cook up some chicken or some turkey, and get some tomato sauce. If you get like canned tomato sauce, it won't have any fat in it. So stop looking at the jarred stuff. All the jarred stuff's going to have fat in it, and it's going to have a bunch of bullshit fats in it. And you don't need the Primal Kitchen one, or it doesn't have to have avocado oil or whatever in it, because you don't need any of those fats anyway. Let's go over this for a second. What's a good fat? What's a good healthy fat to have? What's a good healthy oil to have, rather? I don't think there's any good healthy oils. I don't think we should be eating oil. I don't know how we got to this point, but like the people that think that I'm ridiculous for having, some juice here and there are the same people that talk about what oil you should have in your kitchen. Why do you have oil? Like what in the fuck are you using oil for? I guess every once in a while, so something doesn't stick to the pan, using some amounts of it. But yeah, you can buy tomato sauce, and you can even just get like canned tomatoes, or like there's all kinds of options. But yeah, you can get canned tomatoes or canned tomato sauce. It won't have fat in it. There's all kinds of shit. Like if you go through the grocery store, and you probably just never even look at it. Go through the canned aisle. Canned mushrooms, canned this, canned that. No fat in like any of the stuff. And it's all stuff that's awesome. It can help make your food taste better, whatever you're going to eat. But you can have, get 99% lean ground turkey, get 2 pounds of that bitch, cook all that shit up, cook up a bunch of noodles. I mean, look, that doesn't need to be meal prep. That takes like 20 or 30 minutes to cook that up, right? And I guess if you wanted to, you can like divvy it out and eat it, the next day and stuff like that. And I know that people are attached to their meal prep stuff. And I understand it. I get it. Like, when you have prep stuff, it's easier, right? Because you just reheat it and it's there. But I guess my point is like all of your stuff should be like within 15, 20 minutes away anyway. And if you have canned stuff, you just rip shit out of a can, you dump it in a bowl, and it's done. You're ready to go. Like, I understand like the rice that only takes 90 seconds or whatever to cook, might be more expensive. And so it might not be great for everybody, but get a rice cooker, cook up a big old pile of rice, cooking up potatoes, like in the easy. You don't need to slice them, dice them, do anything. I put potatoes into my air fryer so much that my claims that are air fryer is because she's like, every time I open that thing, there's potatoes in there. So she thinks that magically that thing is making potatoes, which she's going to college next year. And if she thinks that we have a potato maker in the house, I don't know how well she's going to be able to do in college with that understanding of our potato maker. But anyway, yeah, I have potatoes in there all the time because I don't need to mend them or wash them. I put them in. I put them in there for 30 minutes and I walk away, take a shower, do whatever, go to work, come back. And, now I have a heated and cooled potato, which is now a resistant starch, which lowers the overall amount of, it lowers the overall amount of carbohydrate that's in there and gives me things that are better for my gut microbiome by being prebiotics rather. And you do the same thing with rice. You just set the rice cooker, like, doesn't matter. It's not going to burn the house down. Nothing weird's going to happen. And then you got rice and you stick the rice in the fridge and you're good to go. So yeah, that's what I'm doing lately, is just kind of hammering this bodybuilding diet. I'm saying, I think it's a good idea to go after pretty low amounts of fat. I am not trying to advocate that you, like, if you're under 10 grams of fat day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, I do think eventually your luck will run out. And that might be something to consider as you move forward. But, like, I don't know, just try it. Try it for 7 days, 10 days, 12 days. I was thinking 10 days of 10 grams of fat or less, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, why don't I just start that today? And that's what I started today. If I'm a little over, who cares? Not a big deal. If you have 12 grams, 15 grams, 20 grams, like, who gives a shit? But yeah, I was like, you know what? Let me try that, because I'm going to be traveling to Scotland, traveling to Ireland in about 2 weeks. So I figured, like, hey, this could be really cool. Body weight's feeling really good. Leanness is feeling really good. I weighed 212 yesterday with clothes on after traveling all day. And I actually thought I was going to be heavier. And you guys saw, I posted a video of what I ate in my hotel room. I just went to this weird local Asian food store and just had no idea what the foods were. Everything sounded so weird. So I just bought Super Golden Crisp, which I recognize those. And I already had, whey protein with me. And I mixed the whey protein up with some cold water, dumped that in the Super Golden Crisp, and just hammered a box of cereal. And the thing I ate before that was a New York strip with Dr. Sean Baker and my buddy Mike Mutzel. And that was really enjoyable. And that was definitely, that sucker probably, it was like a Wagyu steak or whatever. That had probably a good 50 grams or so of fat in there. But before we get on to some questions, let me just tell you a little bit briefly. I mean, it's not coming up. I did have some blood work done recently, and the results of it are like, there's nothing really there. And I had Mike Mutzel go over this. That video is going to be released probably this Sunday, so it'll be released very, very soon, where he goes over it. And Mike is someone that people pay him to read their blood work. C-reactive protein 1.37, hemoglobin A1C 5.4, ApoB 65. That's a number that Peter Itea wants people at, but says is impossible to get to unless you're very low on fats. There you go, 65. Fuck y'all. My thyroid stimulating hormone was a little bit off, a little bit on the higher side, 3.3. Glucose 87, not much of a big change there from my other. I don't have, in comparison, I don't have previous blood work lined up with this just yet. But I will gather that together at some point. But my fasted glucose was normally around 90 or in the 90s, and it's at 87. So I would just say that's not a change. It's not significant enough to really even bother to talk too much about. Lipoprotein, little a, 45. What does that say? Hold on a second. It's a little blurry over here with these eyeballs of mine these days. 45.9. And that's supposed to be excellent according to what Mike shared with me. I don't have my triglyceride. I don't have my triglycerides listed right here. But all I remember is they were awesome. Like it actually shocked Mike, and you'll have to see that in that video. I mean, if I sit here and thumb through this, it will probably bother you guys, and doesn't make for good TV. But anyway, I'm still calling it the sugar diet because I think that this is a sugar diet. I mean, I'm still primarily like running off of a lot of sugar. That's where my energy calories come from. They don't really come from the protein. Protein, as I mentioned before. And look, man, guys, go back and watch. Like, just as I said earlier about Dan Duchaine, his isocaloric diet not being popular. It wasn't popular because no one gives a shit about like doing things balanced. No, like people don't want to watch a show that's balanced. People don't want to listen to music that's fucking balanced. They want shit to be hardcore or extreme in some way. It's either like gangster rap or metal, like when you're lifting, right? It's something with a good beat or something. It's got to be compelling, right? So it needs some like sharp edges to it. It needs to be, right? Like that's just the way shit is. And, you know, part of the reason why a lot of my stuff has not necessarily gone viral is because I don't really do a lot of that. The sugar diet was kind of the first thing that had a little bit of that flair to it where, yeah, that's kind of cool that I get to be like part of this thing and that I help blow this thing up. But I don't do that typically. So for some people who kind of think I'm just doing this for views or for clicks or whatever, like I got a lot of better usage of my time than to sit here and just talk endlessly about nutrition. I am trying to help people. I do care. I do want to see people be able to lose weight. And I'm obsessed with weight loss. I think it's really cool. I also think that it can be really difficult because human beings are really fucking hard to figure out. But this diet call where you're primarily, you know, running off of carbohydrates is an amazing one. And I think it's a discovery in some ways. And I think even the bodybuilders have gotten sidetracked. A lot of the bodybuilding diets I see now, there's still a lot of fat in there. And I know that some of those guys might need that for particular times of the year when bulking up and getting a little bit bigger. And I'm not saying that we should and what they do, but the bodybuilders, they do give us an insight on how to have the most amount of muscle mass with the least amount of fat. And there are natural bodybuilders too, right? That we can follow guys that are at least getting tested, and we can pay more attention to that if we want, because we think that's like a safer endeavor or what have you, right? But again, you know, who's the most popular crickets? You know, who's the most popular natural body? Like, just I don't have any idea. It's not on my, doesn't register with me. I don't know who that is. You know, it's not a Chris Bumstead. It's not a, you know, these modern monsters of bodybuilding. I mean, I guess bodybuilding has died down quite a bit, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's more appealing. I mean, I guess that's where the enhanced games came from too, right? Even though the Olympics already are the enhanced games. By the way, the top 7 sprints of all time in 100 meter. They're the only 7 sprints that are from someone that passed a drug test. And it's all from the same person. It's all from Usain Bolt. What's cool about that is people are like, oh, that's funny. People think he's natural. But I was like, that's great. That is awesome. I mean, he's a special athlete, right? But how special is he? I don't know. I don't have the inside scoop. I don't know what the deal is, but like, really though? Like, are you someone, people have been setting records for a long time. How long has the 100 meter been around for? Let's just say 100 years, right? Been around for 100 years, and this guy comes along, that guy comes along. You got Ben Johnson, you got Carl Lewis, who were both doping. And, you know, they in the 100 meters specifically, they sometimes have revoked a gold medal from like this guy, and then they give second place the gold, and they're like, oh shit, that guy tested positive. And I think there was like one event one time where it was like the 6th or 7th place person got the gold medal. How awesome is that? Because everybody else was enhanced. But yeah, I mean, I think people like a good story, and they like things to be a little bit chaotic. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I started the single digit body fat series probably like a year and a half ago, and people didn't seem to give that much of a shit about it. And what was I talking about? I was talking about a miserable diet, basically, of really just eating mainly protein. And I think the message that I missed there on my behalf, and I just wasn't aware. I know about carbohydrates. I've used them before. I've utilized carbohydrates before to do a bodybuilding show and to help make me feel good and help make me feel strong and have good workouts. But again, the bodybuilding stuff was masked for me. I used a lot of steroids. I also did a lot of cardio, 90 minutes cardio every single day, or 5 days a week, sorry. And that was just like a lot. So I was like, anything in the bodybuilding realm, I don't really want to mess with too much of that. I mean, I don't mind scraping the surfaces of some of that, but I don't want to work. I don't want to be entrenched in it that much, because it changed a lot of what I was doing. Like with my family, it was disruptive. It was annoying. Couldn't go to restaurants and stuff like that. And when I travel, coming up, like, yeah, there's gonna be some challenges with when I travel. I'll have to bend, right? But if I'm not eating hardly any fat, and I'm controlling that variable most of the time by eating fruit, candy, honey, maple syrup, whatever the hell I can get my hands on, Coke, just straight Coke, straight Pepsi, straight juices. Like, they have all that shit in every country. They've got candy in every country, right? I can eat all those things. I can manage my fat calories, keep the fat calories really low. And then when it's time to have like a dinner, I can, do something. I can have whatever the hell we're going to have and not have an issue with it. And I know like those proper breakfast, like, I'm going to pass. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking? I'm not. There's no way I'm going to pass up a proper breakfast in Ireland and stuff like that. It's like, you're out of your mind if you think I'm going to pass that shit up. This stuff's just too good. It's too delicious. It's too amazing. But yeah, with the single digit body fat series, all the videos are still there. I talk a lot about protein leveraging. I still think it's important. Another area where I do differ from Cole, I don't disagree that it's a good idea to get your protein in first in a lot of cases. Like if somebody wants to go to lunch, somebody wants to go to dinner, even if somebody wants to go to breakfast, eat some protein before you go. Eat 30, 40, 50 grams of protein before you go. Get yourself satiated, satisfied in some way before you go, so you can make better decisions, so you don't, eat everything in sight. And then same thing with going to like a barbecue type thing. I know there's gonna be a lot of those coming up in the summer. It's just a good idea. It's a good idea to kind of, preload yourself with a little bit of food, so you don't get distracted and thrown off by whatever other foods they have. And at least you have already sort of taken care of yourself. It's kind of like whacking off before you go on your date type of thing. Like, take the edge off a little bit of your hunger signals and, go enjoy whatever's coming next. Lastly, I'll just say this, keep those fats as low as you can. Feed yourself with protein so your hunger signals aren't going bonkers. And what I was going to say is where I disagree with Cole is like, I don't think you have to always be like protein first, because I've done this for a long time. Keep in mind, like I talked a lot about protein leveraging over the last 3-4 years. Protein first is very helpful when you're doing kind of more like normal dieting, or you're trying to just manage your weight in general. That's where it kicks ass. That's where it reigns supreme. But when you're eating a lot of carbohydrate, you don't need to really worry about it as much, in my opinion. Like, I think in the morning, if you're about to go and let's just say you're about to go and train, never mind the time, because people get all hung up on the time. Let's just say, an hour, 2 hours from now, that you're going to go train, just eat a bunch of carbs and then go train. Like, I don't think you really need to waste your time with a lot of protein. Now, if you feel like eating protein, that's another thing, then maybe go ahead and do it. But like, I don't think it has to be accompanied by anything. I also don't think that you have to do what I'm saying. I don't think you have to only eat carbs. I think you can have the carbs and protein together if you want, or you can have them separately if you'd like. But what I don't want you guys to get, I don't want you guys to get into this situation. So most people in the standard American diet are diluting their body from protein because they fill their guts up with carbohydrates, right? But they're filling their guts up with carbohydrates and fats, okay? And then they never get around to consuming enough protein either. So they eat like 13% protein. They are taking up real estate in their stomach for otherwise a better choice, which is protein. You guys aren't going to make that same mistake, and you don't even have that same option because it's not like you're going to eat so many rice cakes that you're not going to want like steak. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not going to work the same way. You're going, like, I have faith in you that you're going to eat your protein and you're going to be just fine. If you're somebody that struggles to get in your protein amount and it's difficult for you and your protein needs to be broken up over the course of 3 meals, then when you wake up first thing in the morning, then that might need to be the first thing that you sort of reach for. But I think carbohydrates around workouts, I think, is awesome and really optimal. And for me, for today, I had some simple sugars this morning, didn't eat any protein, had a coffee with some hydration in it and some honey, and I hit a great workout. And then after the workout, that's when I ate my carb source and my protein. So if we got some questions, hopefully I have some answers. I know I would talk for a long fucking time right there, but had a lot of shit to rip through.
Muscle Mustache says, I'm down 70 pounds so far, got a blood test done, and my AST was super elevated. Could this be due to the weight loss? Have you had your AST tested?
Yeah, you know, some of my markers on my blood work are like they're always like elevated. I have taken the time to get other blood work done and other tests done, and it just turns out that like sometimes my things are just elevated a little bit. I've never gotten back like perfect blood work before. Like it's never happened where like, oh, everything's cool. Like actually, even on this last test, my bun creatine, my creatinine or whatever it's called, was like low, which I think it's usually high. It's usually thrown off one way or the other for me for some reason. And this time around, it was like lower, which is just interesting. And that doesn't have a lot to do. That doesn't have to do a lot with the supplement of creatine. It may have to do with like dietary creatine that you might get, even though they're similar. But anyway, I got sidetracked a little bit. But your main question, like I don't have answers for that. Like I don't know a ton about blood work. I would, if you could, what I would do is I would try to ask that question to Stan Efferding. If you can go over to Stan Efferding's Instagram, you can also email him. Hit him with an email. I think it's just stanefferding@yahoo.com. You can give that a try. You can look up, you know, Stan's pretty open. He's out there doing stuff. And also too, like he reads his comments and stuff. So if you go on his comment section and just say, hey man, I had a question about my blood work. That's the man. Like he's awesome to go to for that. And also be sure that you watch the video that I do with Mike Mutzel. It's supposed to come out Sunday as we're recording this right now. Today is Friday. So it's going to come out in 2 days. And Mike went over everything thoroughly with me with the blood work. And that's the way that I wanted my blood work represented. I wanted somebody to communicate it because I don't want to just screen capture something and put it up on Instagram. So many people are going to lose their mind. So many people are going to try to do a gotcha bullshit on me. And it's like, fuck all you people, you know, it's like, I need to present this in an intelligent way. I don't care if people have ammo on me. I don't care really what people want to say, but I don't want to just screenshot something and then put it up and have some people act like a bunch of assholes. By the way, the comment section, like on my YouTube channel, you guys kick ass. Like you guys are fucking awesome. I wish that I don't know if you guys are following me on Instagram, but the people on Instagram suck, man. They just, I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't know. I just like, I know there's a lot of people that love what I do. I'm not expecting everyone to love me. I'm not expecting everyone to like me. I'm not expecting everyone to agree with me. I'm not expecting everyone to think that what I do is good, cool, fancy, or whatever. I'm not even trying to be cool or fancy. I just am trying to document stuff. I'm just trying to show stuff. But the amount of disrespect on Instagram is just gross. Like, it's like, it's enough to make a lot of people want to quit. And I think it's worth mentioning that to you guys, just so people know, like, just try to like pause for a second. Like, I don't mind, somebody saying like something where they're, really ripping into me or something. I don't really mind some of that sometimes. It's not that big of a deal. But to get it, consistently and constantly, man, you're looking way smaller or whatever. It's like, okay, maybe I am smaller, then that's fine. And I should be smaller because I weighed 240 as of like 2 years ago. And now I'm getting closer down to like 200. Yeah, that's going to happen. But like, don't people realize like angles? Don't people realize like lighting? Oh man, you don't look as ripped as you did 2 weeks ago or whatever. Again, I don't care that much about the comments, but it's just these hair trigger things that you guys do where I'm like, man, everyone's so reactionary. It's sad to me how reactionary people are. It's sad to me that people feel compelled to share hate. They feel compelled. And I am mentioning this to you guys so you guys don't make the same mistake, because the people over here usually are pretty cool. The people in the comments here are usually pretty cool. And I'm not saying everyone needs to like kiss my ass, whatever. You can tell me to go fuck myself and you can say whatever you want. That's your right. That's what this is. And I'm a target, and I'm an easy target. And go ahead and blow me up here and there. But like, somebody said I was twirling the ropes around. Someone's like, you're the most uncoordinated guy on the internet. But that's part of me. Like, part of the reason why I'm showing you guys this stuff is to demonstrate some of that. I'm not sitting here twirling the rope around being like, oh my God, I'm going to blow people's socks off with my movement patterns. I'm going to get picked up by Beyonce to be a fucking backup dancer because I'm really rocking so good with this rope. She's going to be blown away. I'm aware. I know that I'm tight. I know that my body's tight. I know these things. But anyway, it was worth noting because somebody that doesn't have the admiration from people and someone that doesn't have the love in their life of somebody like myself, like, I'm never going to quit on fucking anything. Like, I love doing stuff. I love recording stuff. I love documenting stuff. So you don't have to worry about me. You can throw all the bullets you want at my way or fire all the bullets you want my way. I just eat them up. I think they're just fuel anyway. It's just more ammo for me, really. But there are a lot of people that would probably want to bow out with some of the stupid comments you guys make sometimes.
Sherry gave us a super chat. She said, I made a video on my channel about protein sparing modified fast for those scared to add carbs. There are many carnivore / keto people that are stalled. Thoughts?
Protein sparing modified fast is a really cool idea. It sounds like you're talking about adding carbs in. I would actually just, carbohydrates, you can eat a lot of them. Like, that's what I've learned. Like, you can eat a lot of carbohydrate. And according to your muscle mass, you can even have more, so if someone has like decent muscle or is training and lifting, then you can even have more. Like, there's no reason to have absurd amounts of carbohydrates. There's no reason to have extra or over your amount. But with the more carbohydrate that you need, or the more carbohydrate that you eat, the less protein that you'll really need anyway. So, having like all this meal prepped, all these chicken breasts all cooked up, and it's just not that necessary. Like, it's not that big of an emergency. Like, if you can, if you're a female and you eat like 100 grams of protein, like 100, if you eat something that weighs 100 grams, okay, and it's primarily protein, and you do that every day, like, you're probably gonna be pretty good. Probably gonna be like pretty well off as long as you have, you know, some other source of protein some other time of day. Now, the protein sparing modified fast is basically you're just trying to run off of protein. And I think that's a shit diet. That's a shitty diet. To only eat protein is a shitty protocol. It's not a good idea to be like low fat and low carb. Now, to do it, you know, sparingly, protein sparing, modified fast, but to utilize the technique just here and there, I think it makes some sense. Do it 2 or 3 days or something like that. Just kind of see what happens. Maybe you'll lose a little bit of water and so forth. Everything's always worth a try. Everything's always worth a shot. But I don't like that diet plan. And I think originally when the sugar diet came along, and more properly said, when sugar fasting came along, I think people were really concerned about, well, how do you do this long term? And you don't sugar fast long term. That's the answer. And I don't think you protein sparing modified fast for long lengths of time. I think you turn it into a slightly different diet protocol, just like I did with sugar fasting, turning it a little bit more into the sugar diet.
MPM gives a super chat. He said, I lost 62 pounds back in 2012. My diet was low protein, and a lot of the time my fat and carb intake was about the same, 1,800 to 2,200 calories a day. I bet FGF21 was high, and I didn't even know about it.
That is super cool. And actually, this guy makes a pretty good point. Some people might be like, what a dumbass. But the main thing to trigger the FGF21 in the current research they have is the lack of protein. And it's not so much driven by, although some people believe that fructose can drive it even higher. I'm not sure if there's any evidence of ketones driving it higher or particular saturated fats, although MCT oil, I think, is an encourager of FGF21, which would probably make sense that maybe stearic acid does the same. So that's kind of cool. Here's something I want to address, and thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate the super chats when you guys do that. It's very, like, it means a lot to me, you know. Like I have tons of fucking money. I have a bunch of houses, a bunch of cars, and I'm really blessed, and I have a lot of amazing things. But I have nothing without like what you guys do when you guys support me, when you guys go to the websites and you purchase a Slingshot, or when someone throws me a couple bucks here, like, it matters a lot. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for that. But what I want to address is with what this guy laid out here, and congratulations on the weight loss too. That's fucking incredible. Imagine if we can do everything with like more calories. That's what I want everyone to focus on. Can we do things A, with more calories, and B, can we do things where they're fucking easier? Because this shit is really hard to do a lot of times. How do we make this shit easier? I know some of us are like hardcore or whatever, and you want to make things harder on purpose every once in a while. I get it. Cool. But I don't want to make my diet harder. I don't want to make my diet more annoying. So this way seems to be the path. This is the way. Like, this seems like the way. This is fucking awesome that we get an opportunity. Like, I can just hammer carbs fucking all day long. I love rice. You know, some people are like, how do you cook your rice? I don't like rice plain. It's not that good. First of all, stop buying like stupid rice. Like, just get sticky rice. Maybe Ryan can look that up for us. Like, what the fuck is sticky rice? What's it actually called? But yeah, get sticky rice. Quit fucking around with all those other rices and get sticky rice. Might be basmati rice. Maybe, I don't know, sticky rice. I don't know if it has a different name.
Glutinous rice?
Glutinous? I don't know. Oh, gluttonous. I know sushi rice.
It says glutinous rice, also called sticky rice, sweet rice, or waxy rice, is a type of rice grown in Southeast Asia and the northeastern regions of South Asia, which has opaque grains and very low amylose content and is especially sticky when cooked.
Well, there you go. Get that shit. That shit, like, you don't need to put anything on there except for maybe a little bit of salt. And then it's amazing. You can also like look up, and maybe Ryan, you can look this up on here. Maybe look up like sushi rice, like how to make sushi rice. I've been trying to make sushi rice in my rice cooker, and it doesn't really work, but I think you can just add vinegar and some sugar to your rice. That's another thing too. Add sugar to your rice. That'll knock your socks off. And for those of you that want to keep your rice a little bit more on the savory side, even when you add sugar to it, it'll still be kind of on the savory side anyway.
Yeah, it says how to make sushi rice. Cook the rice, cook the vinegar mixture, season the rice, and yeah.
Sick. So I mean, there's a couple ways to add a little flavor to your rice and stuff like that. But back to what I was saying is like, let's try to make this stuff easier. And the whole thing about the sugar diet and where the sugar diet, it just came from a different angle. And I apologize if there's somebody that's been hammering the same message for a while. And I know there's like Mike Fave and Jay that have been talking a lot about pro metabolic. Like I love that term. I mentioned that to my wife. My wife's like, that term is cool. Pro metabolic. She's like, I never really heard of that before. And the reason why you don't eat seed oils and stuff like that is to stay away from things that are potentially like, they are potentially messing up your metabolism rather than encouraging your metabolism. We want things that are like encouraging the body. And in this case, how cool is it that we have maybe an opportunity to like rev our engine a little bit more? Think about your folks, think about your mom and your dad. And if your mom and dad are in their like 50s and 60s, okay, now start to think about your grandparents. What's the biggest difference between the two? Your grandparents are probably starting to get to the point where people that are in their 70s, people that are in their 80s, they get to a point where they don't really have an appetite anymore. Like they don't really want to eat. And sometimes they lose weight and get like smaller. And there's all this talk about muscle loss and all these things that happen, right? You start to really lose a lot of muscle as you age, but there's ways of pushing that off if we still lift and send some signals to our body that we want protein muscle synthesis and we want to keep the muscle and we challenge the muscle. And then we also eat protein, right? And if you think about yourself throughout your life, like when are the times where you were like the least hungry? The times when you were least hungry is usually when you're sick. Right? It's usually when you're sick. So unfortunately, a cancer patient, they deal with the chemotherapy, but the chemotherapy messes up their ability to eat. And so they get withered down to be next to nothing. And they don't necessarily just die from cancer. They die from just not being able to hold on to any nutrients. Now their body is just busted wide open to all kinds of other diseases. Their immune system is really compromised, and we don't want it. We don't want to eat less, right? But what's our definition for? I think that definition kind of sucks, but it is a definition. The definition for a caloric deficit is having the scale go downwards. It's weight loss. The two are supposed to be synonymous with each other. But what I don't think was thought about before, I do think this is revolutionary. Can we come from the other side and say, yes, we are still going to probably be in a caloric deficit because by definition, that is, weight loss and everything, right? But what if we do so by jacking up the metabolic rate? Let's up the metabolic rate. I mean, there's study after study. There's so much information out there that your metabolic rate decreases as you bring calories down. So if you start to go to 1,500 calories for like a few weeks, your body is going to bring down the temperature and bring down this and bring down that, bring down all these regulators of how much energy that you burn, and it's going to want to burn less. And even if it doesn't burn less, it's going to figure out a way to burn less by making you overtrained, by making you underslept. You're going to be super sore from your workouts. You're not going to be able to recover. You're going to be tossing and turning when you try to go to bed. You're like, man, I don't know what's wrong. It's your calories. Your calories suck. And your calories need to be higher. And I think this guy said that his calories were like 2,200 or something. That's actually still pretty good. I think that's something everyone should review. You know, like I hate the calorie thing. I call people calorie counting cunts all the time. I don't love it. But it is a measure, and it is like it's a way that we communicate about food, which is shitty. I think it sucks. I think it's part of the problem, but it's what we have, and it gives us like a metrics to talk about. But what's the most amount of calories you can have to lose weight, rather than, oh, let me set myself into a caloric deficit. I'm going to set myself up into a 500 calorie deficit. It's like, man, that seems like it kind of sucks. Why don't we think about, I'm going to start to count and track my calories tomorrow, okay? But I'm mainly going to eat protein and carbohydrates, small amounts of fat, maybe 20, 30 grams of fat. Maybe it is better for my metabolism to have a little bit of fats in there. Maybe I should have half an avocado every other day, and maybe I should have a little bit of olive oil, and maybe I should have, you know, when it's in season, maybe I should have an avocado, like, you know, some of that shit. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But we're still really low fat. We're still keeping the fats very low. I just think that it gets to be harder for your body. It gets harder and harder for your body to be fat when there's no fats coming in. I'm not saying you couldn't have, you know, 6,000 calories worth of food and like still end up being fat with 0 fat grams coming in. But I still think it would be hard. I still think your body, like, it just probably doesn't want to do that, especially those of us that train.
Tone Blair gives a super chat. He says, I'm 46, 160 pounds, approximately 15% body fat. Sugar diet is cool, but I feel like I need to up the protein. It would be cool to be about 10% body fat. What should I do?
Do what I'm doing, man. Get the protein in. Don't make any rules. There's no rules about when you have to eat your protein. There's no rules about when you have to eat your carbohydrates. Let's just get rid of all the rules. No rules except for one. Our fat needs to be very, very low. If you can do under 10 for a handful of days, that's cool. But probably a safer thing to do, and probably something that would work out probably better long term, you're going to have to consume like legitimate amounts of fat. Long term, you're going to have to get yourself to where you're consuming 40, 50, 60 grams of fat to be running on all cylinders. But I don't think there's a lot of reasons to do that until you get in good shape, because you're going to run off the fat that's on your body. So sounds like for this gentleman, you're already in great shape, which is awesome. 15% body fat. That's great. So maybe just set a goal. Like, why don't you just start with under 20 grams of fat a day? See how you do with that. That's going to take a while for you to figure that out, because it sucks. It doesn't suck in the sense that like, oh man, this diet sucks. You're still looking forward to your food. Everything still tastes really good. It just sucks because you have to be so diligent. And everybody, please go watch Cole Robinson. Ryan, maybe you can just bring up the video just so we can kind of play it in the background. But go to Cole Robinson's channel and check out the video that he posted of Susan Powder shopping. And it's there's a lot to learn there. And you know what's interesting is, like, man, I actually need to watch this again, because this woman ripped through so much good information, and she was so compelling, and she was just awesome on camera. And I think her story is that I love they're showing like random people that have tried to diet. We were talking to Nancy Fox, and it's like, it seems so cheap, seems so funny. But she talks a lot about low fat dieting. And I know that people are like, I tried that diet in the 80s or 90s or whatever. And I think a lot of people just weren't following it. They weren't following it aggressively. You know, you have to follow it aggressively. People that start to get really lean, they almost always are not eating very much fat, or they're just burning a crazy amount of fat. And sometimes it's a combination of the two. You know, I know Cole keeps talking about 90s bodybuilding, the hardcore. This is the way bodybuilders get in shape all the time, always and forever. Now, more recent bodybuilders do things a little differently. And I did mention Stan Efferding's fats were at like 70, but he was having tremendous output. And Stan is just like, he's a fucking monster. I think when I was competing, I maybe have to go back and look, but I probably had around 60 or 50 grams of fat a day. So you can still, especially for this guy chiming in, at 15%, you might not need to be at 20% or 20 grams of fat a day, but why don't you just mess with that for a little bit and see how it works out? I do know that Mike Menser and a couple other really famous bodybuilders talked about eating next to no fat when they got ready for a show. And the reason why we look at bodybuilders is like they're able to hold on to a crazy amount of mass and diet down to really light, or I'm sorry, able to diet down to, really shredded body fat percentages. But maybe more fairly, we should probably look at a lot of the natural bodybuilders probably actually be even a better place to look. Now, Nsima, who I actually interviewed Nsima on our podcast, Mark Bell's Power Project, and I talked to him quite a bit about bodybuilding. And I don't know if that video aired yet or that podcast aired yet, but that one's going to be a good one when that one gets released, because I asked him like some in-depth questions about how he dieted and so forth. And also, I do know that this one's posted where Nsima was asking me about the sugar diet. And I think we went back and forth on talking about his the way he ate for bodybuilding. And the reason why that's relevant is because Nsima is a professional bodybuilder in a natural division. He is someone that has been drug tested many times over. In these federations that he's in, he hasn't competed, I don't think, in 6 or 8 years or something like that. But he's still in incredible shape. And I think, maybe these natural guys, maybe we should look more into, some information from someone like Nsima. Maybe we should look more into some information from an Alberto Nunez or the 3D MJ guys, because those guys help coach a lot of natural athletes. One downside, though, is that Nsima did mention that he had like a lot of, and he's talked about this openly. So I'm not shitting on him by saying any of this. He had a lot of sexual dysfunction and just like didn't feel so great as the show got closer. Oh my God, you click on some of those pictures of Alberto Nunez. He just gets so shredded. Son of a bitch. Dude, that's all. See? Come on, dude. Like, who doesn't think that's awesome? That's awesome. I don't know. I just think that's so cool. That's so cool. Some of these natural guys, by the way, I think they get even more peeled than the guys who are on shit, because the guys who are on shit, they get like puffier a lot, But yeah, anyway, Nsima had some dysfunction that he didn't love. He wasn't happy with. And, in asking him about that, he did think it was also related to the activity, though. He was lifting quite a bit and also doing quite a bit of cardio. So most of us aren't going to push ourselves into a corner that deep and that hard and that far. So there's probably not a lot of reasons to even bring it up, really, but it is something to be aware of. So for anyone that's going to try going, 20 grams of fat or under 10 grams of fat for multiple days, like if your dick doesn't work, that's some really bad news. It's usually if something like that happens, it's usually like it's very much related to your fat consumption and very much related to your output and the diet that you're currently doing, and usually is very reversible. It usually just takes a few days of you eating some more food and then everything's fine. But, hopefully you can just avoid that. Like, just avoid that by having, somewhere between 10 and 30 grams of fat a day. Do that for a while and occasionally just bump it up. Occasionally just eat a little bit more fat. And also you can do what I've been advocating for, is have a little bit of MCT in there. And the MCT will just say like doesn't count against you for anything. A little bit, like maybe 2 teaspoons a day or something like that. Get in a longer chain fat, maybe a macadamia nut oil, even though I'm not a huge fan of oils. Or just eat a couple macadamia nuts would be another option. Eat a couple olives or use a little bit of olive oil. Those are all decent options. You can also use a little bit. When I say a little bit, I'm talking about like really, really small amounts, because again, they don't even have to be added to your fat calories, which I know sounds crazy, but like, we don't need to be so minuscule on the fat that it's ridiculous. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just count the fat that comes from like your food, your main foods. And I really wouldn't worry too much about like a little dab of oil or a little bit. Like, it just gets to be too much. You can even buy tallow, and maybe Ryan, you could pull this up. It'd be there's tallow spray for cooking. So this might be a really good option for people that don't want to get like those weird sprays and shit, because they always have a lot of chemicals in them. So maybe look into like a tallow spray. You know, not everything's perfect either. I mean, you're hoping that your tallow is grass-fed, grass-finished, and all those things, because you could be getting tallow from just whatever random, and then it's like maybe it's not as healthy as we think it is. But yeah, you see a couple there, right? That black one, I think, is the one I have.
This one?
I think it's a spray. It looks like one of those cans. Right there. Yeah, maybe that guy. I don't know what brand that is.
South Chicago Packing.
Yeah, that might be I have something like that. And then I also get like a little tallow jar. I think that is the right one. Yeah. And again, like, if you really care, like, try to get grass-fed, grass-finished. I'm not saying that this one is. This one may or may not be, but I also utilize Carnivore Crisps, and they have just a beef tallow that's just, it's not a spray bottle, but that I just found that one to be super convenient. Again, you know, some of these saturated fats, the more saturated the fat is, kind of the better it is for you, in a sense of like your metabolism and so forth. And so beef tallow can be awesome, because I believe beef tallow also has some stearic acid in there as well.
Zach Keene says, do you think sugar diet protocol will eventually be the go-to contest prep diet protocol for bodybuilding?
I think a lot of things came from this experiment, and I do think that some sugar fasting could be applied to in prep bodybuilders. Where I would use it if I was going to do a bodybuilding show, I would probably, there's a couple things I would play with before I got into prep. Because once you get into like prepping for a bodybuilding show, then you're already signed up for one and you don't want to mess up. So what I would play around with is I would play around with a little bit of depletion, deplete and replete and stuff like that. I would play around with, you know, this idea of super compensation and stuff. And I'd really sort of flirt with some of that. I'd also play around with, you know, loading up the liver with a little bit of glycogen and loading up the muscle tissue with a little bit of glycogen. Like, nothing feels better than having your muscle tissues loaded up with glycogen. It's a different feel than just utilizing, you know, and again, fruits don't only have fructose in them. Fruit has combinations of sugars in it. So yes, it's going to, some of it gets stored in your liver, but not all of it. And it will, you know, have an impact on your insulin. It will have an impact on your, you know, blood glucose and all these different things. So I do think that over time, I think sugar fasting will just continue to grow in popularity. And actually, like, the diet that some people are utilizing is sugar fasting by day, lean meat, starch by night. And I think that has a lot of utility. And I know a lot of people in my recommendations for that have lost a lot of weight doing that. And that's also like the TK Metcalf diet. TK Metcalf, you know, mentioned he doesn't really eat much during the day, has some coffee and shit like that. And then has a little bit of candy, and then he has like one meal a day. And then he like starts his next day. And I would assume that he probably doesn't care that much about how much fat is in that meal, since he's only having like one meal. I don't really recommend one meal a day. I've done it before. I don't think much of it. I don't think it's a great practice. Sometimes these practices are good for a mental strategy, or sometimes these practices are good just to kind of like try something new or different.
Let's see here. Doug says, with calories out being advantageous, do you mean it's more efficient to throw in more training and movement than just cutting the calories for getting ripped?
That's 100% what I'm saying. And furthermore, if you were to think about it, like imagine if you did some hypertrophy work twice a day, every day. Now I say some hypertrophy work. Now what, like that can mean sometimes you just do like very little. I mean, you could literally just like, if you have a little bit of weights at your house, you can do 6 sets of hammer curls, and maybe in between that, you do 6 sets of standing calf raises. If you don't have any weight or machines to like figure out a calf raise, then maybe just do single leg calf raises. Go back and forth, 6 sets is kind of a lot. 6 sets of 10 with a good clean tempo with good weights. I mean, shit, that's a hypertrophy workout. That's a workout. And then maybe later on in the evening, you actually like go to a gym, or you go into your garage, wherever you have some weights, and you do some incline curls, and mixed with a tricep push down. And then after that, you do like a barbell curl mixed with a skull crusher, something like that. And there's another workout. So you did 2 hypertrophy workouts. You're doing things that are, when you lift weights, you are lifting for your future metabolism. It's putting an investment towards your future metabolism, because 3 years from now, you're going to have, 4 more pounds of muscle mass. And, those 4 pounds of muscle mass is not going to equate into a lot of calories burned. It really won't. However, it will equate to a lot of calories burned when we start to talk about walking or running, or pretty much every activity that you do. Every activity that you do, you now have this extra muscle tissue on you. Now, having fat on you does something similar, because you do have more weight on you as well. So it's not like fat does nothing, but your extra muscle mass will not only be something that will assist with, it's not only something that's going to assist with calories burned due to just the extra weight that you may have on your frame. It's going to be something that is going to help disperse and to put your carbohydrates and put some of your energies that you're consuming into your muscle tissues, rather than having it going to like your fat cells and shit like that, because you have a body that is now, flipped the other way. Think about somebody that is kind of a pear shape, they get all the fat kind of down, they turn into like a cone. Right now, you just take that cone and you just flip that motherfucker upside down. And now, where does the extra calories go? Extra calories now just sit in your traps and your upper back and your shoulders and your biceps and your triceps, right? And the muscles in your legs. And now you're sucked in. Your body comes inward. That's what you're trying to do. And the best way to do it is with weights. So you can do cardio though. You can do, Ronnie Coleman and a lot of these guys did cardio, but you have to also keep in mind that is a little bit of an illusion. And the reason why I say it's an illusion is because those guys, they ate so much that they had to do like an hour of cardio. What was the hour of cardio for? The hour of cardio was for calorie expenditure, tightening up the body in ways that there's not a lot of reasons for us to talk about, since we're not pro bodybuilders. And in addition to that, it was a huge caloric burn, but they're also in this like fat oxidation state or stage for a really long time. They're also working on cardiovascular. They're doing zone 2. They're hammering zone 2, and they're working hard. And like, you remember those pictures of those guys just dripping, those were always so motivational. These guys just dripping with sweat, and they're talking and like usually chewing gum. That's because I think chewing gum is like another caloric burn, right? So I think they did that for that reason. Always gnawing on gum. They're lean as shit. They got the skeleton death face going. They're going hard. The sweat's dripping everywhere. And they're even breathing pretty hard. Like, they're not just doing like you know, little cheap bouts of cardio. They're working hard, and they're working hard for like an hour or so. So you could potentially do some cardio as well. And that might, I think cardio has a lot of utility. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say, look, you know, maybe if you do a 2-a-day workout here and there, maybe some days the 2-a-day workout is like a little bout, not a little bout, but a bout of cardio. And maybe on some, because I think cardio is just like really valuable, especially for like your heart and stuff. So it's like a bout of cardio and some lifting, and then maybe your double days on some other days here and there are, you know, a double bout of lifting, just to kind of see what that'll do for you.
That's it for questions.
Oh, hell yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.